to have a short mini lesson to talk about how some of the books we've read have changed us. I love being a teacher.
I'm going to start out by
It's a constant learning experience. Every day is different.
In this class
and the challenges have to do with human beings. I don't deal with paper. I deal with real life issues where there is no right answer for every child. It's a case-by-case basis, and I think that makes it very dynamic.
The conferences that I go to, the workshops that I attend, the professional books that I read are just the greatest part of my learning and keep me going at this stage of after 27 years. It gives me the boost to really keep on working in teaching.
Okay, in this poem that I'm handing out, I want you to see if you can read it just for 3 or 4 minutes and see if you can find any places that the image in your mind changes, or the feeling, the mood, or tone of the poem changes. And see if you can find the words that help you notice that change, like detectives. Okay?
Being a professional teacher to me means that I have a commitment to every student in my room, and that means I have to go and be responsible with my own homework.
So being responsive to the situation, what's going on.
Okay, thanks, Lucy. Maddie, what have you got to share?
Well, like for the first few pages, after I just read the back of the book, I really was interested in what it was going to be about, because the back for me didn't really explain anything. So like in the first before I'd even started reading, I had written down Jolly and Levon. Sounds weird because the names were a little interesting. So, and then when I get later on in the book, I just am like amazed by things like the mother of the 2 children is 17. That's only 3 years older than the babysitter. So things like that, I had a lot of insights, but more questions too.
Okay, so slow it down. So when you're reading, you write down an insight you have, and sometimes you write down information.
Yeah, and also I just to look back, I do that. Like if I was looking back later, how old was such and such, and I can look back and find that. But then also there's parts that like she's using metaphor that I don't really understand, or it's a little too detailed. So I write down what does she mean, and I'll come back to it later and read over it a couple times just to figure out what she's talking about and what it's related to.
Great. All right. Okay, thanks a lot. Zach and Colin are going to give us 2 other perspectives of use of Post-its. I've met teachers who are far better at calculating and scheduling and getting down their lesson plans in order than I am. I look at a big picture, have several strategies I like to use that support my purpose, and then I like jumping in.
The reason I'm doing this is because it's Miss Gange's class we're adding on. It really helps to plan every day, and I like to plan for literature study groups on a daily basis because it keeps the story fresh in my mind. And so I'm ready to respond to what's going on because I can remember the story that I've been reading just the night before or the morning before we are meeting. Most of the planning that I do is reflecting on what the kids have done that day and trying to stimulate, the direction that we go the next day, and also a little bit further down the road. Okay, this morning, as we are working on this section of the chapter, or this section of the book, I've got some great notes about ideas that you've all been working on this morning.
I'm glad that Opal met Gloria Dump. I think they will be best friends. Yep. At the pet store, I thought Gertrude would not like Winn-Dixie to be in the store while Opal worked for Otis. I wonder how the boys got fleas from Sadie. How'd they get them? Sadie, Sadie.
They had the cat on top of their head.
Oh.
And the cat had fleas, so.
Yeah. So that's one way of getting fleas.
And she always shaves their head in the summer. Every time they get a little strand of hair.
That's one way to get rid of the fleas too, isn't it? Just shave them bald so they don't have any fleas on them.
Yeah, they go.
Exactly.
It's like they just have
Yeah.
a tiny strand of hair.
Right.
Yeah.
Anya?
Gloria Dump is a thoughtful person because when the dog came in, she didn't go, "Scat, leave dog." She just fed the dog some peanut butter and was being nice to the dog. And Gloria Dump is a normal person like us. She may not have teeth, but she is a great person.
Thoughts on her? On
How she's normal and just the same.
Sure.
It's funny when I think back about how I was taught. It was open the book and read, and I was in the high group. So what we're experiencing in this classroom that I have right now is very unlike what I lived as a student. How did I come to know that? When you hang around people who are really excited about literature, when you have colleagues who talk about books on their own, when you have principals who put you in leadership positions, possibly before you're even ready, I think you can start changing your practice of teaching.
All right. When we're done, we'll write for 5 minutes, and we're going to go to the carpet for sharing. And here's what my hope is at sharing. I'd like you to write from a particular character's perspective, but if you...
Someone asked me what envisionment meant for me as a teacher. I'd say, and I'm constantly evaluating and looking at myself as a learner, as a reader. That's one step. I think the other part, equally important, is that I'm finding that in the other kids.
Who would be courageous enough to begin?
Dear listener, I'm scared. Scared about school, about Juju. Everything's going wrong ever since that Miss I Think I Know Everything Sanders came along. Before her, I had power and boys and everything going for me. Then she came. Malika's getting stronger. She can't tell on me. I'm her only source to be accepted. Only source for her to be accepted. I'm her everything. Or could she rap? If Juju found out, she would be so mad, I don't know what to do. I'm scared. Char.
That Miss Sanders sucks. Her face is all screwy. She should just go back to where she belongs. She drops me grades just because I am who I am. She doesn't like my work, even though it's good. So she's giving me C's. Can't put up with it no more. None of this. She's going down. That she is, yeah. Miss Sanders is gonna get it. Malika's a suck-up to her now. She does everything that Miss Sanders wants her to do. If she doesn't keep up my grade, she'll get dumped.
I look again for what are the kids telling, what can they tell the rest of the class, and what are they telling their peers is going on for them as readers.
Okay, anything that you noticed in the sharings? Anything that came up? What did you notice?
Everyone sort of got a different picture from the book. Then, no one got the same one. Everyone, because lots of people did Char, and they were all different. So.
Well, everybody sort of changed their dialogue. A lot of it was slang or just different than you would normally talk to fit the story.
So I think envisionment is both that I've entered into that space, and I'm pulling the kids both along, and I'm looking to see how they're entering, so they have voice.
What do you think about teachers who are trying to sort of newly adopt Reader's Workshop or Writer's Workshop and implement literature discussions in literature circles? What would you give as advice, sort of professionally for getting started?
Learning. I think that I've said a few times that I put myself. I look at how I teach in the classroom by putting myself out there as a learner. And when you talk about math, for me, that's a push in an area that I feel I have less expertise. And so I want to look at what do I do to encourage learning? and what encourages me as a learner. So I would hope staff development would be about those baby steps, would be about encouraging, it'd be multiple conversations. You know what? It also would be about being right. I mean, too often we beat ourselves over the head because we can't do it the way somebody, I remember for me it was Nancy Atwell. You know, I could never be Nancy Atwell. And you know, as you find encouragement and support from others, you can be, I guess, who you want to be. But
yeah, having that faith and confidence in yourself, I think, is important. And taking those, you know, like I had said before, just taking small pieces and trying small things and doing it a little bit at a time, not expecting to, you know, all of a sudden have this incredible writing workshop or an incredible literature circle going on in your class, but just trying things out and having faith. Well, this I may not be doing it the way Nancy Atwell is, but what I'm doing is working for me, and that's right too. And maybe I could write a book about that, you know, just having that faith.
It's pushing yourself to try new things. I think that helps us to avoid, you know, being burned out. I mean, if we did the same thing, this is my 22nd year, I'll be in my 23rd year. If I did the same thing 15 years ago that I'm doing now, I would be sick of it. I would want to do something else. So it's exploring, it's trying new things that is not only great for our kids, but it's good for us and nourishes us professionally, you know, to keep us looking forward. It's not being able to say, oh, you know, it's October. Let me pull my October box down. What do we have in here that I haven't done yet this year? It's looking at every year as a brand new start, and not planning too far ahead. You know, get your skeleton out there, but try some new things, and that's what keeps us energized, I think.
For me, I've also found that, you know, when you're trying something new and a really new topic or a new structure for your room, don't expect that by itself is going to be embraced and appreciated and a salvation by itself. That's not going to work. You're the impetus that makes it happen. And I think I've made that mistake myself, you know, expecting everyone to, you know, just become wonderful writers by just starting this system. No, you have to be the system, and you have to really look at the nitty-gritty to see how things work and why things work and why don't they work. And I think that's a common mistake especially for younger teachers. We say, oh, I'm going to do this, it'll be fine. And then you say, well, why is this so difficult?
Being open to new ideas, I think, is really a mark of a teacher who is always going to be fresh and always going to be good. If someone ever gets to the point where they think, I really understand everything there is to know about Writer's Workshop or how to develop, you know, that writing voice of my kids, then I think they're sort of stuck. It's being open, and even being open in terms of your philosophy. I mean, I believe a lot of the same things I believed 25 years ago, but I learn new things all the time that force me to kind of look in different directions. And so every year I'm setting myself a new little thing to look at. I mean, it may not be really up front of my mind, but I've been looking at Writer's Workshop really for the past 4 or 5 years. Before that, I was really trying to hone my ability to teach mathematics well, you know, and always setting a new little goal for yourself and something you can have a conversation about with friends keeps you looking forward, not looking back all the time.
To be a professional educator, you have to be a student yourself, constantly learning and rethinking your approach to your work in the classroom. You need to take new ideas and see how they apply to your students. That means you need to try things out. You need to discuss what you're doing in the classroom with colleagues, learn what they're doing, and discover together new approaches. You need to be inventive, but also reflective, and you need to be open to change. That kind of flexibility and openness will help you bring the most to your work with students.
I highly recommend.